Hello, Dr. Fred Garcia, continuing on our discussions on quantum healing. Today, genes are not your destiny. New research tells us now that our genetic uh, code can be manipulated, and it can be manipulated in various ways. So before very recently, we thought that our genes determined our present and our future, our structural, etc., and that it also had a lot to do with connections with mental states and depressions and so forth, and they're somehow associated. Well, now we know that all the things that we've been talking about in quantum healing affect the genes in a very, very positive way. To make it very simple, we have a genetic code that we get from our parents. But in that genetic code, first of all, science only knows 5% of what the human genome contains. 95% is unknown. So they call it junk DNA. Well, that is where I'm putting all of my efforts and research, because I do believe there are, in the other 95% of our genetic code, immortality genes, happy genes, who knows? But what we do know is that the 5% of our genome is influenced in a very profound way by lifestyle, which includes diet. And every one of my lectures talks about number one, diet. Basically, sugar, bread, and dairy. I tell all my patients, those are openers. Get rid of them, they cause chronic inflammation. And chronic inflammation is a major negative influence on our genetic expression. Major. It turns on oncogenes, cancer genes, etc., 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 diabetes genes, chronic inflammation, and that's number one cause is, and I've talked about it in all my videos, is sugar, bread, and dairy. Well, now we know that simple carbohydrates and sugar, they're addicting, and now we know exactly how it works. They cause, simple carbohydrates, sugar, cause a secretion of dopamine and serotonin. These are neurochemicals that stimulate the pleasure zone, the nucleus accumbens. But even worse is in those two products, sugar and simple carbohydrates, there is a substance called gliadin, Glidin, which is the agonist to the receptor sites, which means it's the lock and key to the morphine receptor sites in your neocortex. So every time you eat sugar or simple carbohydrates, you're getting a dopamine, which is like crack cocaine, serotonin, which is like an antidepressant, and also the stimulation of the morphine receptors. That's narcotic. So those foods, the simple carbohydrates and the sugars, are causing an addiction, and that's why people cannot break the obesity, is because it's an addiction. And it's a very strong addiction, not only to crack cocaine, but also to crack cocaine, but also to a narcotic receptor sites on the neocortex. And so now that's a major problem. So what we knew since 1995 with the work of Jeffrey Bland and his concept of glycation, etc., we knew that that was a problem, is simple carbohydrates and sugars. But now we know the mechanism. It's a stimulation of the pleasure center plus the morphine receptor sites in the neocortex. So, right off the, and all, if you reduce the chronic inflammation, this is something we can all do. Go to the quantum diet. Go. It's on my videos. Quantum diet and exercise will tell you exactly the foods you should eat. And then so we get rid of that major source of chronic inflammation, negative impact on your genes. And now we add exercise. Exercise across the board stimulates the good genes, the good genes and the good expression of those genes. Okay, now we're talking about the 5% that we know of. Well, I believe if you know that all these good things affect this part of the genome, then it must help the rest of it. And you know what? I think I'm right. So let's do what we know about. Strict, good diet, and food from the forest, and no sugar, no bread, no dairy. Bingo. And don't eat late. When you eat late, that shuts down your pituitary function, which is what makes your hormones. So especially when you're middle-aged or on, like I am. So we need our hormones, and also go to videos on, I talk about hormones. Anyway, all the different areas that we're talking about today, I have previously done videos that go into detail. But bottom line, let's get the diet straight. Now, let's move quickly on to the mind. Well, the mind, and there's some incredible work that's been done by Eric Kendall, Nobel Prize, for proving that thoughts change structure and function of the brain, and the brain runs the body. Your thoughts can change your body, period. And that's been proven now. There's no question about it. So now we have to start using our mind as a helper and a healer. And I have videos on that too. Rather than hurting us. Number one cause of disease and unhappiness is mental stress. And most of it is self-induced. So now we move on to the, again, we always end up with the mind. The mind is the source and communication with the quantum field. The quantum field is the ultimate source of energy and matter. And to get a full explanation of the quantum field, please go to my website, drgarciaquantumhealing.com, and it will explain the quantum field and some of the physics, and then ultimately the equation of everything. So, what I'm trying to do in this lecture is tell you the good news is that we are not subjugated to a destiny that we inherited from our parents and grandparents. We have tremendous power to not reshuffle the cards, but change their values. Wow, that's poetic. And so, my message today is, let's start today. Because life is not a dress rehearsal. And what I have found that when you are in the being, in the now, when you're in the alpha state of being, when you're aware of your awareness, then you are at the source of all being. You cannot be thinking. And to get to that state of awareness, please go to my previous videos and it will show you how to get there. And that would be a good place for you to practice on a daily basis. Aware of your awareness, do the quantum diet, do the exercises, come to a state of a non-thinking reality, the alpha state of being. Dr. Garcia says that is where you want to be, the alpha state. And how do you get there? You become aware of your awareness. And then you are in the now. And you're in the now, you're in the alpha state, which equates to between 7 and 8 hertz, which is also coincident and coherent with the quantum field, which is the source of all energy and matter. So I intuit that by being in the alpha state, you have access to the quantum field, to its energy and to its intelligence. I spent my life studying because I want to know. And it's all come together as far as, first of all, we're going to be retaking the power that we didn't even know we had. We all have it. And the path, well, one path is through knowledge. That was the path of Jesus. Jesus was a scholar. And others. There are different paths. But the ultimate realization is, I believe, always the same. Oneness. And I do believe that the alpha state is a state of oneness. It's the same frequency as the meditative state, as the zone that athletes get into. Children under 5 years old are in the alpha state. It's the same frequency as the sun, a blade of grass, your heart, and the Schumann wave that surrounds the earth. It's the same frequency. And to quote Nikola Tesla, to understand the universe is to know energy, frequency, and vibration. And quantum healing is it's a very common sense approach to life. The concepts that have come together in quantum healing have not only been echoed, they've been shouted from the mountaintops by all the great sages of history. I mean, Buddha, you are what you think. Clean body, clean mind, right thought, right action. Well, how can we not agree with that? Except I did not understand when he said right thought, right action, because the alpha state is no thought. So I realize what Buddha meant. Right thought is no thought. Okay? That's the Buddha. And then quantum physics underlies what was in the Bhagavad Gita. And when Lord Krishna says, I am the field and the knowing of the field. Well, the field the Lord Krishna talked about was probably a plowed field. Well, I would like to substitute that with the quantum field. I am the quantum field and the knowing of the quantum field. The updates of quantum healing, bottom line is there is knowledge in the world that helps you to retake your God-given power to not only improve yourself physically, but to also shape your destiny. Anybody, no matter what their genes are. And the research is overwhelming as to the importance of diet, of exercise, but now what's so exciting and so interesting is we throw the quantum mind into the mix. The quantum mind can interact with the quantum field, which is the source of all energy and matter. Anyway, it's been a pleasure updating you on the latest in quantum healing. Dr. Fred Garcia, MD, speaking for Quantum Medical Associates. Thank you. Good doggy, Moki.